Welcome to Europe in an Italian Minute. This week, all the news in Italy has been about the arrival and the start of the spring quote-unquote season of arrivals of migrants on Italian shores, trying to make their way across the Mediterranean to transit through Italy to other parts of Europe. The numbers that people are talking about are staggering, and the scale of the humanitarian crisis is in many ways beyond anything we can describe here. What we want to talk about today, though, is what this crisis means for Italy's position within Europe and Europe within Italy. And I think the really important point that maybe isn't as apparent in the rest of Europe, but for Italy, this crisis, more than the economic crisis and the Ukrainian crisis, can really undermine Italian policies towards Europe and certainly Italian public opinion towards Europe. The Italian press this week has been scathing against not only the human traffickers, who rightfully so should be, but the Italian press has also been scathing about the European Union. And this is because the migrant question and the immigration question really touches on two aspects that are central to Italian geostrategic interests, Italian domestic politics. The economic crisis and the Ukrainian crisis, arguably, Italians can blame on their own politicians, and this isn't something coming from Europe. But the question of migrants really has Italy on the side of angels, according to Italian public opinion in this case. That is, as you probably know, there was a terrible tragedy in October 2013, on top of lots of other ones, that led the Italian government to implement a policy called Mare Nostrum. That is, intercept boats trying to make their way across the Atlantic in an attempt to guarantee that leaky, unsafe boats would not lead to any kind of tragedy. The program was a success, as much as any kind of program trying to help people in desperate straits can be a success. But it was costly, and it was Italy on its own trying to deal with a European problem. And it is a European problem because people arriving in Italy, as they are arriving in Greece or in Spain and other parts of the Mediterranean and Malta, are trying to make their way to northern Europe. Italy felt itself on its own. The European Union implemented the Triton program. A pittance compared to what Italy had been doing. So the humanitarian effort on the European scale has failed. Now, what can be done? And Italy is looking to Europe to do something. Well, the other European partners, and some European partners, have criticized the humanitarian effort, saying it creates a perverse moral hazard where migrants will risk leaky boats, knowing that they'll be saved at sea. So the humanitarian aspect of the humanitarian response doesn't find a great deal of success. And we also know that there's some European states, Hungary, other states, have simply said, our borders are closed. So the question of burden sharing, that perhaps Italy will collect migrants and then there'll be some kind of agreement to distribute them throughout the European Union, is not going to work because some states don't want to open their borders. And even if they did, with the free movement within the EU, there's nothing to say that they could keep them there. So, and this leads us, this on the humanitarian side, at the burden sharing, that raises a great deal of frustration in Italy to find that European partners are perhaps not as sensitive to the problem and to what Italy and other Mediterranean countries are doing. This leads to the second really big issue here, and this has to do with geostrategic interests and how important stability in North Africa and the Middle East is for Italy and other Mediterranean countries. And the question here, of course, is what to do about Libya. And the scathing attacks this week in the Italian press have all centered on how Europe and the European Union has not been able to provide any kind of response to the crisis, especially in the collapsing state in Libya, and the consequences this will have for Europe. And the consequences are going to be severe, not simply for instability in the region, but especially for domestic politics in Italy and elsewhere. And we all know that there's plenty of political movements that are willing and ready to exploit the human tragedy for their own political purposes. We saw that already this week after the tragedy on the weekend. Unfortunately, we'll probably see a lot more in the future. So EU summit has been called, so that might be a first step. Hopefully a solution will come along. That is at least what public opinion and most of public debate in Italy is hoping for. Thank you.